Hey, welcome to the Cyber Savvy Woman, where women business owners reclaim their power in the digital world. We shatter the myth that cybersecurity is too complex to master and transform protection strategies into clear, actionable guidance. This is your digital empowerment sanctuary, where cyber fear becomes cyber confidence. Whether you're protecting client trust as a therapist or safeguarding financial data as an advisor, you'll hear from women founders who've conquered digital challenges and security experts who speak your language. Every woman leading a business deserves to feel unshakable in her digital decisions, no matter her technical background. Are you ready to stop letting cybersecurity intimidate you and start letting it elevate you? Here's your host, Rachele Schainker.
Welcome back to the Cyber Savvy Woman, where we talk about practical ways women can protect themselves, their businesses, and their futures in this increasingly digital world. I'm your host, Rachele Schainker, a Silicon Valley technologist and owner of the award-winning managed service provider, CMIT Solutions of San Mateo. Today, we're talking to Yasmeen Turayhi, a product marketing leader, founder, author, and creative technologist who spent more than 2 decades helping companies successfully bring products to market. Yasmeen is the CEO and co-founder of a spiritual tech company, the founder of a product marketing practice that's supported over 50 companies and 200 product launches, and an award-winning filmmaker who actively experiments with AI, storytelling, and emerging technology. In this episode, we'll dive into why so many product launches fail, how intuition and customer sentiment plays a critical role in successful go-to-market strategies, and how women leaders can leverage technology, including AI, without losing the human side of their business. Yasmeen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rachele. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. We had a lovely pre-podcast call, and I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I'm so happy you decided to come on our pod. Thank you. So a little bit of background questions for people meeting you for the first time. How would you describe what you're doing today?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question to answer. I would call myself a person who is experimenting with a lot of businesses in life. And so I work in a lot of different worlds, but I think they all center on the theme of storytelling, of consciousness, elevating humanity. I really care about these topics. And I also want to create businesses that are win-win for everybody, that are really creating this distributed economics. So I am the CEO and co-founder of a spiritual tech company now. They call it consciousness tech, spiritual tech, but it's sort of bridging these worlds of, I would say, personal development, mental health, consciousness, and technology to make it more accessible. Yeah. I also run a product marketing agency, right? So I worked with 50 plus companies, and I also have a podcast on intuition and run an intuition school. So all those kind of 4 things are what I work on my day to day, but I'm just tracking so many different nuances in culture, in the economy, and also in business, because I think it's really important as a product marketer to have a very diverse set of experiences and to be able to see patterns, because that actually makes you very sophisticated. Yeah.
And I guess that kind of rolls into my next question to you. As you're building the spiritual tech company and product marketing principles, how do those kind of worlds connect, or help us connect those dots? Like, how did you kind of go from product marketing to seeing another need?
Yeah. And I'm still working with clients in product marketing. I'm still an advisor in product marketing, and I've like pretty much every industry you can imagine, B2B, B2C, early stage, late stage, all the way through IPO. And so the sort of bridge for me is I'm still in the very early stages of the spiritual tech space, but we did just break even, which is very exciting. Thanks. Yeah. After a long time of bootstrapping, it's exciting. But what occurred to me over a period of the last decade was actually it didn't matter what industry, what types of customers you had. There was actually a sequence of events that one needed to carry out in order to understand their customer, to understand their market, which is the most important thing to do when you're building a product. And most people, I just had a conversation over the weekend with a couple founders. Yeah. Most people make this mistake of building the most sophisticated product, the most sophisticated tech, and then bringing in marketing or bringing in someone who understands the customer at the 11th hour, which is like definitely not the way to go. I'm always like, no, test before you invest.
Right. Nice.
So yeah.
So when,
and
go on.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to answer your question a little bit more
Yeah.
deeply on the spiritual tech piece. What I learned, I mean, we're making so many iterations on our features with the spiritual tech. So like every day, every week, I'm tracking like what is actually working with customers, what is not
Yeah.
working, tracking, response rates to email campaigns, tracking social media engagement, and just seeing the bigger picture all moving together. And so it's been awesome because I can tell you like right off the bat, oh, this is not going to
Yeah.
work. I've seen this
Right.
pattern over a
Yeah.
decade and like
Yeah.
we should not. And I think a lot of times many people would just spend more money at the problem,
Right.
like let's just hire more marketing, let's do more demand gen. And I know that I can discern the difference between a marketing
Yeah.
problem and a product problem.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, that definitely, I love how you've taken your experience of the product marketing and now you can hone in on something that may have more of a higher feedback and like quickly like spin that up. So I will be watching for that for sure. When companies do come to you for product marketing help, what is kind of, what crossroads are they at, or what is their biggest challenge? Like, why are they reaching out to you for help?
There's usually two camps of companies that look for product marketing support. And when they need it very fast, it's usually at these inflection points in their business. So there's like the early stage founder who is bootstrapping or getting angel investments. And it's gone to a point where like it's their first rodeo. They may have been in finance. They may have been in other industries and were a leader in their industry. Now they're starting a tech company or some kind of startup in their industry or in a actually brand new industry. And they just don't know what they don't know, right? There's just so
Yeah.
many blind spots. And so they will call me in usually to like look at their entire product roadmap, do some due diligence and give them recommendations. So sometimes it's short and sweet contracts that sometimes, can be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. I mean, sometimes I like to cap it at 6 months. Sometimes
Yeah.
it becomes like a 2-year project and I'm like, this is not
Yeah.
a full-time role. But also another camp of customers are people that have just raised money in their Series A, Series B. They might not know which person they should hire in marketing, or they might have a product problem. They might have a marketing problem. They've maybe done a bunch of investment in marketing and it's been maybe good for a couple months, but then a lot of those people transitioned off.
Sure.
So they had a retention. So product marketing looks at the entire landscape of how do you bring a product to market. And it's not just about a launch. It's not just about a campaign. It's about a sequence of strategies put into place from an operational perspective, product perspective, marketing perspective that is really thoughtful, looking at the macro lens, the micro lens, and seeing how all these different groups fit together. It's unfortunately such a role that people don't take seriously until they absolutely need to. And it's very expensive when you get to that point where you're like, you've wasted years of investment in product, but nobody wants to invest early in this space. So
yeah, I mean, I
it is what it is.
find that with our clients as a IT provider, a lot of times they come to us when they're in crisis, right? When they've had like some sort of like issue or they've been hacked. And if they would have came to us, earlier, they wouldn't even have to have dealt with that. And that's a messaging that I struggle with, of like explaining like what the value is and how. So maybe we could have some offline conversations. You can come and help me. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. You mentioned to me previously about the 3 phases of product marketing: marketing research, positioning, and go to market. Which phase do you think companies tend to skip or rush? Or is there one?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Market
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
Most people will say that they've done market research, that they know their customers, they have all these surveys. And I'm always like, okay, well, who did the surveys? Let me look at the list of questions. And it's always like some product guy who like wrote up a
Yeah.
list of product questions.
Yeah.
It's very technical,
Very biased,
and I'm like,
probably. Yeah.
very biased,
Yeah.
very forward leading. And I think to be really good at customer interviews, you actually have to do a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I think a lot of people assume just because they're asking someone a question that they're doing an interview. And that's
Right.
not actually the case.
Yeah.
You have to have both right brain, left brain, perceptual ways of understanding information. It's often what people don't say. That's what you're listening for. So I've had so many funny conversations with product managers where we've both gone to a customer interview, or CEOs both gone to a customer interview. And I'm like, we would then digest the information again. I'm like, oh, you're this, you're this. And it was like as if we were listening to a completely different conversation.
Oh, interesting.
Always a black and white. I mean, it was
Yeah.
so fascinating.
Yeah.
So over time, I learned that I wanted to do these calls alone because people would oftentimes reveal the truth if you actually give them enough space and they
Yeah.
trust you and you have a flow. And the truth is like worth millions of dollars of information and time and energy. And so often, sometimes like CEOs or product managers would listen to the calls and they'd be like,
Yeah.
what?
How'd you get that? Yeah.
Cannot-
Yeah. That's great. Oh, very
yeah, yeah,
interesting. I mean, that kind of leads into
yeah.
my next question of like, what does really understanding the customer mean besides, basic demographics? Like when you're understanding the customer, what are you listening for?
Yeah, such a great question, Rachel. I mean, so many things. It's a hero's journey when customers are going to purchase your product. You want to turn them into fans, advocates, to really share your product with the collective. So it's not a small journey.
Understanding the customer, besides like demographics of like who they are, what they do, what they provide, like what is that next underlying layer of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are we looking for?
Yes. So what I normally do is I would set up both qualitative and quantitative
Mm,
surveys. So
mhm.
it's not just, looking at metrics and data, but
Yeah.
you're actually
Yeah.
trying to get inside the customer's head and understand their sentiments. And here's the thing, like since COVID, most customers have changing behaviors most of the time. So it's really interesting. It's not the world, as I'm sure that we're all aware of, because
Yeah.
of the way information is moving, people's preferences, their energy is changing. The way that their self-concept is changing quite dynamically. It's harder to actually create a persona and then let it sit. Like you have to be monitoring changes of a person's
Oh,
journey,
wow.
which is
Yeah.
changing. So I definitely have noticed that. Like, so getting clear on doing customer feedback loops on a
Yeah.
consistent basis, I would say quarterly basis. And most people just do it once. And then years
Yeah.
later, they're like, oh, we did that. But
Right.
it's really staying, and it's not in a way that in which you're trying to get information from them about your product. It's actually getting to know them. And
Who
that's the
they are.
difference. What do they care about? Just
Yeah.
establishing a rapport. And I really do believe that I actually think a lot of people are overdeveloped in a linear, logical way of analyzing information and behavior. And so they're not able to discern the symbolic ways of interpreting things that are energetic, that are non-local, that
Yes.
might be symbolic, typal. And
Yeah.
those pieces are really, that's actually what I was thinking about this the other day, because I float between Los Angeles and San Francisco. And I was like, I think San Francisco is filled with so many intelligent, brilliant, logical, linear thinkers who can also think on so many different levels, but there's actually like a lack of intuitive discernment and understanding and knowing on a deep level, on the level of intimacy. I think is not,
Yes.
there's a famous quote that Robert Otto says. He says, people can only give you the level of intimacy that they've developed within themselves.
Yeah.
So in order to do customer interviews well, you have to develop a deep level of intimacy with yourself, because you won't be able to see those
Right. You
nuances if
won't
you
pick
haven't
it up.
developed.
Yeah. Because you're just
Yeah.
looking for this
Yeah.
line. Yeah, that totally tracks for me. I mean, I can see it. And yeah, because most likely the people that are looking for that data and like that data tend to be more linear. So it's a definite unique
Yes.
differentiator for you, Yasmeen, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
How would you approach go to market differently depending on like a company size, budget, maturity? I'm assuming those are, when you brought in, you kind of like, you're going to have a different tool in your toolbox for kind of, and I like small business. That's my
Yeah.
wheelhouse. So talk to me about like small business, like what that would look like for a go to market.
So most companies are like always not interested in spending a lot of money on go to market. It's just kind of like the general consensus that I found. So I have about like 200 line items on a go to market plan that I could put into a company go to market, like all the things that we could possibly do to make this product, to make this company, to make this launch a big success, right? And there's like strategic readiness, operational dependencies, sales and marketing, like building out the funnel, building out social media, but it's internal and external. And there's so many layers and nuances and people involved. So I only like to focus on the things that we have time for as a team. So if it's a small team, what we do is we will prioritize a long list of what I believe are really important things to have. We will collectively prioritize it, and then we will agree to, let's say, 20% of the list.
Right.
And we'll just commit to that. because that's what most people try to do everything and then they do nothing well. So I always, and if someone is going to bring something new in, I'll say, well, we gotta move something out because this is all we have capacity for. Yeah. That's kind of something I have to fight for though in a lot of companies because it's a scope creep is a thing.
Yes.
It's like
They
definitely.
want it all, right? They brought you in, they've invested, they're like going to do it. And like for you to be like, no, this is what we have time for. I'm sure and that's difficult for some people, but I love that perspective because it makes it attainable, right? You're going to reach those goals. You're going to be able to execute it because you've scoped it correctly. So that's great. You've worked with startups and established teams. What would you say is harder, launching with no structure or launching inside of a big organization? I know they each have their own uniqueness.
Yeah. They both have pros and cons. I'm always, every time I go into one, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so easy. I know exactly what to do. And I think, what is are people. The hardest part is actually navigating the people, the dynamics, the personalities, some people want all information. Some people don't want information at all. They just want updates. It's so just kind of understanding the political dynamics, the way people's emotions and feelings, how they process is a whole skill set and art in itself. So I like to go in, figure out what's going on an emotional level. How does energy move in this organization?
Right.
Like who needs to sign off? Who doesn't need to sign off? And I prefer working. I mean, look, I love Rachel, I'm going to tell you the truth. I love the early founder because I see the dream. I see the vision and feel the energy and the excitement and the joy. I've worked with people who've put in their life savings, to bootstrap company or, have a limited amount. And I love the excitement of wearing many hats. And I'm both a, product marketer, but I'm also a generalist. I can, I've been running multiple types of business. So I'm I know how to get stuff done.
Right.
Like that. But then the more established, you have obviously bigger marketing budgets, you have a team, you've got people that can help you, but then there's more process flow, politics, just a lot of meetings, a lot more meetings.
Yeah.
It's maybe so don't need to spin. Yeah. So
I mean, it sounds
vibe,
like
though.
you're using your intuition, as a business tool, right? It's, it seems like when you say you go in and you check out the energy, you're using, intuition as part of your work there also. Is that correct? In how to use intuition in a business context? Is there another way to use it, or is it really just listening to yourself?
It's the subtle cues. It's the sense of expansion or contraction. I can intuitively tell you, even though I have a lot of experience in product, when someone tells me about their product, I already have a download of all their problems, the foreseeable problems, and all the ways they're successful. And it's really, I do think a lot of people make a bigger deal about things than they need to. I don't actually believe in the whole hustle culture of I was just listening to a podcast. This guy was like, I stay at the office till 1 a.m. on a Friday. And I was like,
sad.
No, that's not, that's the paradigm is not sustainable. And in my opinion, it's over. It's we know that that's not going to work for people. So intuition actually helps you circumvent a lot of the challenges. These stories, if I told you these stories of intuition, it would just seem so outlandish and incredible, but they are pretty wild, how much your intuition can help you save time. I would actually say that the majority of companies and executives who have been successful have probably have an overdeveloped intuitive sense, but they're just not calling it that.
Right. Exactly. Because
they don't. They have the sense, but they don't know what it is or how. They're just I trusted my gut, but there's a lot more nuance to it. And it works with the endocrine woman. So I spent 2 years studying intuition medicine.
Yeah, no, I love
helpful.
that. Sometimes customer sentiment, isn't what people will say out loud. How do you listen for what's not being said? Are you listening through the lines or, probing questions or how do you, because I can even think of that. A couple customers where I know there's some things maybe they want to say to me and they're not necessarily saying. How do I create a space that we can have that kind of open conversation?
Yeah, that's so my customer interviews that I've done over the last, couple decades, really, what happens usually is in the beginning, there's a little bit of a wall. There's a little bit of boundaries. People just want to develop trust.
Yeah.
posturing. They just want to know that you're
Yeah.
like listening to them, that you care about them. And I do, like, I actually deeply do care about
Yeah.
people, and that,
Yeah.
that helps because I can hear what they're not saying. So
Right.
what I listen for is, and I think it's actually just about, and I'm also a podcast host. So it's interesting, like being on the flip side of this is
Yeah.
I don't usually do a lot of the
Yeah.
talking. I let guests do a lot of the
Yeah.
talking, and you
Right.
learn so much
Yes. Yes.
when you listen. It's
Right.
really fascinating. You can learn about someone when you just say less. And so I would just ask, open-ended questions, and I would dig deeper. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, if they would mention something and you could feel that there's an emotional connection to it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I look for.
Yeah.
Where people buy things based on how you make them feel. They make decisions that are emotional. So someone's emotion, someone's trigger is actually really important, right?
Yeah.
In terms of understanding like what's happening underneath that trigger. So that's what I look for. Like, what's going to get them riled up? What's the emotion there? I'm just trying to think, like, there were some interviews I've done which were really fun because they would go off into tangents, like they'd love the product, and then like 30
Yeah.
minutes later, they went off like parts of the features that they didn't like.
Right.
And if you were someone who was just listening logically, you would
Yeah.
assume that they hated the product.
Right.
But if someone is leading with what they like, usually, like, that being honest because they care about you,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. And
yeah,
not to
so
get defensive. No one's getting defensive, and like you're open and you can hear what they're saying. And yeah, I like that.
yes.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
That kind of leads into my next question is, do you think intuition is something leaders can learn, or is it more about trusting what they already have? Is that a skill set
I
we
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
100% believe. I think that we were basically told that our intuition wasn't worth developing. Like, that's been the dominant program in the West for a long time for a variety of reasons. I won't get into that. But I think that has shifted now. I think that there is, because people are seeing, like, with all the deep fakes out and we don't know how to discern truth anymore. We don't know what is true, what is actually happening, even within our own organizations, right? There's so many people I talked to who said they had to deal with so many weird admin things, like weird people, mostly
Yeah.
people behaving badly,
Yes.
situations that
Yes.
actually makes, forces a company to like go through bankruptcies and collapse. And it's mostly people. I can read people because I've spent over a decade training my intuition. And there is
Yeah.
a way in which you can train your intuition. It's about getting embodied, about getting grounded, learning how to work with your endocrine system, which is actually the gateway in how energy moves in the human body. But I spent 2 years studying it. And I also have an intuition school. So I now have worked with
Yeah.
like 65 plus executives. And it's also about understanding natural law, like how energy moves is also very critical to understanding how intuition works. It's an incredible skill set,
Yes.
and it's fun to practice, right? Because you could train yourself. I
Yes.
always ask myself a question like, what time is this going to happen? Or is this flight going to actually be delayed? Or am I going to make this? So, I'm always asking questions. I'll ask for precision, and I oftentimes will get an answer. Like the other day, I was hosting a party, and I kept hearing like someone is going to bring their own mug. It's a very random piece of information.
Yeah.
It's also tuition. It's usually non-linear, very random, very much it's not a thought. It's just a piece of information that comes through
Right.
when you
Yeah.
just kind of feel it and know it, see, and there's 23 intuitive extrasensory senses.
Yeah.
And someone did bring their own coffee mug. And I said to him, why would
Yeah.
you do that? That's so
Yeah.
strange. And he said, oh, it's because it's like one of those heated coffee mugs
Yeah.
that you can just
take
and
on
I
the fly.
oh,
Yeah. I love that.
I was like,
Yeah,
but
that's
it just
something
prepared me for, like,
it's something I'm
yeah.
working on for myself as a business owner, is like listening to myself more and making those decisions earlier, like and not letting things like linger on, but like having those difficult conversations and like listening to what I know in my gut, in my heart, and just that's part of my goals for this year, for 2026 is,
That's awesome.
2025, I definitely had some learning on that. And so it's like, okay, this year we're going to do it differently. And just, as soon as that bubbles up, we're going to take action
Yeah.
and
Yes. Yes.
not let it go. So how does your global perspective influence how you see markets and products? Are you able to take,
Yeah.
globally down to locally or vice versa?
Yeah, so I've worked on many like Western launches as well as international launches.
Mm-hmm.
And I always find it really fascinating. Like, first of all, for any launch that's in a local area, we should always do that first and then move to international. Sometimes when people do too much too soon, I mean, there's obviously so much happening on a localization level in each market. And so knowing that, like, I always don't try to rush expansion because we get so much information from
Yeah.
specific markets and how to communicate, with companies and with products. But I also have a podcast that is very global, right? So every time I'm trying to communicate information, I always tell my guests, listen, like, I want you to explain this from a global perspective, because oftentimes people will get into American perspective on a particular idea or a theme. And like, the world is listening, information is moving so fast that I think we have to take into account the way that the world would perceive our
Yeah.
product, would perceive our company, because it matters, and I think with the way, again, information is moving on, social media, how much is, I was saying this to a person the other day, that 20 years ago, people used to care a little bit about what was going on in the world. And I think what's happened is that we're actually become more connected to each other, more psychically connected, more telepathic. We feel more because, okay, I grew up Iraqi American. When I was growing up, a lot of people didn't really care about the war, and now I feel like war is such a big topic. I mean, you can't really go anywhere without someone saying how much they feel, about a war in another country. Now, that was just not the case 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
So I
Fair.
do feel like we're becoming more connected. We're becoming more
Yeah.
empathetic. And as a person building a company or product, you want to take that perspective in mind from looking at the global perspective, not just
Yeah.
the US centric perspective, which is what a
Right.
lot of people do.
Yeah. Interesting. Little pivot here, but how would you help your founders shift from a big launch moment mindset to long-term launch? How do you, I guess, their expectations, like you're going to come in, you're going to do this and it's going to launch, when really maybe you do need that long-term launch process. How do you get them to see that different way of launching?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of companies think that a launch is like an album drop, like you just like
Yeah.
drop an album and then you're
Yeah.
done. You can
Yeah.
just move on. There's so much to a launch. There is the customer service piece, there is the marketing piece, there's the customer feedback piece, and products are ongoing, right? We're continuously adding new features to our product suite. We're adding, we're bundling products together. So when people think that the launch is done and that the job is done, I mean, that is, to me, such a frustrating situation to be in, because it's never really done. You're always tracking metrics on a product launch. You're adding things and bundling things. And I think looking at the big picture is like, what's the vision 3, 4, 5, 10 years out? How do we want to show up in the market? And these early products really matter.
Yeah.
A lot of times people have success with one product because they don't know how to articulate new products in a bundle. And also there's a prioritization map that I usually create with companies, where we are looking and tiering different features within products to see how we could bring them together and articulate a story together.
Yeah, I love that. What role does technology play for you in your day-to-day work? How do you use technology? How do you engage with it?
Yeah. Well, right now, AI has been big for me over the last year. I know that it's so funny. Everyone is not admitting that as a marketer. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not really using it. Everyone's using it. I mean, I think I use it all day, every day, to ask questions and voice prompts. So definitely using a lot of AI, a lot of visuals. Canva is my best friend. I use it all day, every day.
Yeah.
Loom is a good one too, for like short little quick videos between team members, sometimes, for stuff that I'm putting online. Jira, of course, I've used a ton. Confluence, I've used a ton. Notion has been really popular.
Yeah.
Trello. I mean, those are kind of the big ones that I use on like a pretty, I would say, Opus Pro, which is like an AI video generator. I've been using quite a bit as well.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Descript. Descript, I'm actually not using for videos, but I'm using as a transcriber because it's a long story, but I won't go into it, but I'm using it as a transcriber right now.
Yeah.
It's been
nice.
good.
So, I like how you're dabbling with the tools to help your company, like you're, leveraging what's out there, right? To like make it make yourself efficient, make your team efficient. When you're working with global teams, what tools do you deem what are essential for collaboration? What are you using? How do you help yourself collaborate globally?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Notion and Trello are the big ones. Those are the big ones with collaboration. I don't think we've honestly found like a great one tool for cross team collaboration. There's so many different of tools. And yeah, I've got developers in other countries now. And I think the language barrier is actually the hardest part,
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Yeah,
that's the
because
hardest part. But
what your
yeah,
requirement is, do they understand it? Were you able to communicate it? Yeah. I did a big global, I had to align, 5 different global areas on metrics, supply chain metrics. And it was interesting because Japan definitely thought differently than South America. And, you can get there, but it definitely took a lot of conversation, a lot of writing, visuals. You need to use kind of all those components. Is
yeah,
what
visuals are a big one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Is there anything you've intentionally not automated because you think it needs a human touch? Where would you be like, I got this, or I don't need a tool?
Yeah. The thing that is easily automatable, but it is not quite, is the go-to-market plan.
Mm.
Because I've created one that just works and it requires someone to handhold it.
Yeah.
So I have, a Google sheet, and it's one of those things that it's not sophisticated enough where it requires a deep tech, but it
Right.
also is not, what's the word? It's not like basic,
Yeah.
so it does require someone to like know what they're doing, to understand the
Yeah.
nuances. But there's a big human element. If someone can figure out how to bring the go-to-market process into tech, I think they would
Yeah.
stand to make a lot of
Interesting.
money.
I think you mentioned, but you shared with me before that you were building company-specific LLMs. What problems are you trying, when you're doing that for a client, when you're going to build them an LLM, what problems are you trying to solve for them? Or are you just trying to get like a brain trust for them that they can leverage?
Yeah, I mean, so I worked on this with one of my clients, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about it because it was
Oh, fair.
proprietary. I mean,
Okay,
so
fair.
yeah, yeah, I'll just say this much, that it was a deeply technical product
Yeah,
that required us to understand how to articulate our own technical. It actually had a lot to do with regulation. Like we had to
sure.
figure out ways to articulate message
Yeah,
for all the things that we had to apply for from a
right.
regulatory perspective. It was getting
Yeah,
so cumbersome to do it ourselves.
yeah,
So yeah, it was like we needed a shared vernacular to
right.
be able to get things kind of out faster
Yeah.
and more efficiently.
Yeah, no, I like that. Where do you think AI is generally helpful for creative or strategic work? And is there a place where it's falling short? Like it's just not helpful, maybe creating more chaos?
I think AI doesn't have taste, in my opinion. That's what I'm suffering from.
Fair.
It doesn't really know
Yeah,
how to put things together from a, and I think taste is so human, right?
yeah.
It's like how we elementally, archetypally show up in a space. And so I think it's kind of a
That's my
bland way
challenge
of,
with Canva. Sometimes I feel like Canva, I'm like, eh. I'm hard with like, Canva is like, and I'm like, oh, do I need to upgrade it? Do I need, that's hard for me.
that's so funny. I mean, yeah, Canva is kind of a little bit, it requires, I think it's more basic. Yeah, it's
Maybe
more
a
basic.
a higher skill set because I am, like, a very basic Canva user. I'm sure it can do way more than what I'm asking it to do, but everyone loves Canva, and I'm like, I don't I can't. It's not executing what I see in my mind.
A great way to actually work with Canva is there's a couple times I hired a professional designer to design me a
Yeah,
template
yeah.
in Canva that I would just use
Oh, smart.
over and over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that way it was like I didn't come
yeah.
up with the original design, but I'm now executing on it.
Yeah,
And and so it makes it also just like less expensive to always
yeah,
work with
exactly.
a designer, but yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, that's a smart idea.
Uh, but yeah, I think AI, it's very obvious to see if someone has used AI for any kind of copy. It's like, it's not like this, but it's like this, like, it's not like X's, but it's like Y. But it's got a specific formula to communicating things. Now, at the same time, I think that AI is just generally good for editing. Like that's what it's
Yeah.
great for. So you come up with the idea, you come up with the story, you come up with the copy. But
Yeah.
nowadays, like I'm a writer, so I'm always reading things, and I'm oftentimes, if I'm going to publish it, I want to ask AI, what do you think? Could this be better? What are some of your edits? Like just check it for spelling.
Yeah.
So I think what I see AI being really, really good for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair. Let's talk a little bit about your filmmaking. How does, you're an award-winning filmmaker. How does storytelling kind of show up in your product work? Or how do those two things overlap? Product marketing and
Yeah.
filmmaking.
Thanks for this question.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks. Yeah. I think as a product marketer, I feel like the best product marketers who are acquiring new skill sets are
Mhm.
expanding outside of just like one technology company or a couple of technology roles. And I think I always wanted to know how to work with all different types of media. For me, it was really important telling a story. It's like, okay, I know how to write. I know how to create these videos. I know how to, do social media. I feel like getting under the hood and understanding all the layers of each of the media formats is going to make you a better marketer, is also going to make you more empathetic to people you're working with.
Right.
Like I know now the limitations of like
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I know the limitations of like creating a great sizzle reel. I know the costs. I know I worked in, Hollywood award-winning filmmakers. So I know like how much things cost. Like for example, like most films, not so much anymore, cost like $6 to $10 a minute to make.
Yeah.
Really good films. So once you know like how to, did you want to say something, Rachel?
No, I'm just agreeing. Yeah. Yeah. So does that help you kind of then figure out like, okay, this is my budget. This is the medium that we need to use, because you kind of in your mind, like have that experience, I would imagine. Makes it easy.
Well, I like to push founders into as much fun storytelling as possible.
Yeah.
B2B founders don't want to do that for the most part.
Oh,
They
interesting.
just don't. Like they they want to. I think that there's a risk in doing the artsy thing as a B2B founder. And for B2C, people are much more open to all the experimentation. But I think, again, if you're a public company, if you're Series B, Series C, and you've gone a long way and you haven't really taken a bunch of risk in your storytelling, you're likely not going to want to do much more of it. But I think if you are an early stage founder and you're creating a company for customers, you kind of have no choice but to tell a really good story.
Yeah. I mean, that's storytelling for me. I mean, I'm B2B, and it's like they need to hear a story of what we can do, how we can help them, who we've helped, how we've helped them. That is so much more impactful than me just listing our services, which means nothing, right? It's like, this is how, that's definitely part of my salesmanship, is telling a story, for sure. I mean, it's verbally, but maybe I need to make a film. I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk. If you need a sizzle reel, I know a good guy.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be interesting. For women launching a product or service, what is something you wish they weren't doing? What do you wish they were doing? Do you see something with women founders? I know for myself, sometimes like really like finding my own value, like undervaluing myself. I fell into that trap. Do you see anything there?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole can of worms. It's a controversial topic. I think some people say we talk about this, then we're actually perpetuating more of the polarity. But at the same time, it's like I wish I lived in a world where I didn't have to talk about this. But unfortunately, we live in a world where we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I definitely have seen across the board that most of my female founders who had like a male counterpart had a much easier time raising money than just two female founders. I mean, like there's so many people in Silicon Valley, for example, who can raise money off of an idea, when if two women had a product making money, showing revenue, it's still to be like maybe twice or even 3 times as good. And it's a lot of it is just unconscious biases, right? It's just unconscious.
Yeah.
And so I'm not placing blame. I just think we live in this structure where there's been so many times that people say, I didn't know they like, let's put it this way. I feel like I've been underestimated for most of my life, underestimated, which is good because you can use that to your advantage too.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm learning that. Yeah. I mean, cause I came from corporate IT, and that was, a whole another story, but like, being my own boss, my own owner, I'm the boss, and it's lovely. It's like, But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the way to do. How can women leaders, trust their instinct more, especially in a tech-driven environment, as I mentioned? Is it just, is it a reminder to themselves, like, listen to yourself? Is there any sort of like, you had your mantra box going earlier. Is there a mantra we should be telling ourselves?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been kind of coming up in the cultural zeitgeist, which is if you are a woman who still has a cycle, or anyone who has a cycle, right? I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
Then you use that to advantage, right? Like work with the seasonality of your own hormonal system, because so much of our world has been created in a 24/7 testosterone driven cycle. And so a lot of times women are just like exhausted. We have periods, we ovulate. And so knowing our cycle. So for example, I like to film videos when I'm ovulating.
Yeah.
Because I know that my skin is going to be more plump, that I'm going to look more attractive, and I'm going to use that to my advantage.
Yeah.
I also know that I'm going to rest when I have my period. Now, again, people get a little controversial about these topics, but I just find this idea that the human being is like some machine versus an actual living, breathing, we're part of nature. So if you overwater a plant or underwater a plant, the plant's going to die.
Right.
So I just think that people are living anti-life. They're living in an anti-life environment. They're working in anti-life structures and anti-human structures. So that's kind of what I'm a proponent of, is like, let's actually work with nature.
Yeah.
Let's like actually work with the way natural law set this system up so that we could be in our energetic accounting is in balance.
Yes. No, I mean, I see myself doing that. Like I time myself with like the day, like I'm a much, even just a morning person, right? It's like, that's where I thrive. It's like, so I make sure my mornings are peaceful. They're my time to like set my day, and I try not to let anybody, come in on that time, because that's my best time, and so I hear you on that. Yeah. Okay. So at the ending of our podcast, we do kind of like a little cybersecurity rapid fire where I'm going to ask you some questions and then we'll kind of wrap up. But do you use a PC or a Mac?
Mac.
And then do you like a phone or a tablet?
Phone.
And then Google or Microsoft?
Google.
Password manager or not?
Password manager.
Okay. And is there a tool that you can't live with right now? A technology tool?
ChatGPT, sadly.
That's fair. And then what's one word that kind of describes how you approach your work? Like how, what if we were to, boil you down to one word, Yasmeen, what would that word be?
Steward.
Steward. I like that. Okay. Yasmeen, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved hearing your insights on product marketing, intuition, and what really it takes to launch and grow a meaningful product in today's fast-moving digital landscape. Your perspective on customer sentiment, experimentation, and blending strategy with creativity is such an important reminder that successful launches aren't just about framework or tools. They're about listening, adaptability, and human connection. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into the Cyber Savvy Woman, where we explore practical ways women can protect themselves, their business, and their futures in this increasingly digital world. To connect with Yasmeen and learn more about her work, be sure to check out the show notes and links and resources mentioned in today's episodes. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to follow, rate, and share the show. And join us next time for more real conversations about technology, leadership, and living a more cyber savvy life. Thank you. Thanks, Yasmeen.
The Cyber Savvy Woman podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Hey, thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.